The Nintendo Switch launched on March 3rd, 2017, and ever since then, Nintendo made a ton of first-party content. Whether it's their big AAA games like the Mario, Zelda, Smash Bros, Pokemons, you name it. Ports and spin-offs, which serve as filler content for those larger games. Heck, some games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe are a port, even though it's currently the most sold Switch game and fits both categories, even though some may say that Mario Kart could be considered a AAA game. And one thing that the Switch did a lot of is making new original IPs that help sell a gimmick. And besides Ring Fit Adventure, some of these you probably haven't heard in years, like 1-2-Switch, the Nintendo Labo line, or what's expected to be Nintendo Switch Sports. Games that tried to get the mainstream appeal with concepts that don't feel like a traditional game, but failed to sell after the first few months and have ideas that are good on paper but didn't execute them well. And of course, we also have the good third-party support to help the system become successful. But what if I told you there's a Nintendo Switch exclusive that you probably have never heard about? Well, I'm gonna tell you now. This is Vitamin Connection by WayForward. From the indie developer who made River City Girls and the Shantae franchise, this is a game that has a level of uniqueness while also being its own thing. And you can tell by the art style that it's very inspired by the Switch. The game released on February 20th, 2020 with some positive reviews. Now let's talk about this unique game. Will this be a hidden gem or a game that should be forgotten about? This is the myth, the legend, Squidward 5, and this is my gaming essay on a Nintendo Switch exclusive you never heard about, Vitamin Connection by WayForward. Let's start off with the plot here. It involves this family getting these pills containing our protagonists, Vita Boy and Minna Girl. And when you play the game, it helps the family with pretty much everything by making themselves go into the humans and other objects, using features like the mouth to go inside and solve problems. And each level is based on a different member of the family, along with their TV. With what the game is going for style and idea, it makes a ton of sense. But near the end, they decided that you need to stop a meteor, which I don't understand why it can't be something involving human biology, since that's the theme of the game. As for characters you meet, there's a ton you can meet and see. Starting with our main characters, Vita Boy and Minima Girl, there are speakless protagonists that everyone understands. You also have the family who do nothing and don't really go through as much character development, but works for the narrative that they're looking for. As for others, you have this warrior guy who will later become somewhat an ally and is inside the body for his own reasons. There's other characters as well, but they mostly appear only in one level as a side character, like this old dude, a New Yorker, this teenager, and a few others. To analyze these details, they give the purpose of what's happening while also having a level of charm to help make the gameplay enjoyable on a narrative level. Time for the gameplay. Going in, I didn't know what to expect, but I wasn't disappointed at all. What this is a mix of different genres that work together. From the gameplay I've shown, this is a 2D on-rail shooter in which you use a laser beam to kill enemies and obstacles. And sometimes you will need to turn the capsule in order to solve basic obstacles and avoid certain danger. From the promotional material, this game is intended for 2-player play, but for this review, we will be talking about the game from someone who played this by themselves, because I would rather be isolated than be with my parents. How the levels would work is that it starts with a cutscene about who you're handling and what their problem is about. And after that, you would start your adventure and be introduced to the level's character, and afterward, you start the level. They're like one of those ant farms that have multiple paths you can take, and each will lead you to a different part of the level. Your goal in all of these are to get to the vital points in the levels, which are usually 3, sometimes less or more. And once you get there, the gameplay changes to a mini game, and it can be a variety of things you can do, like a rhythm dancing game, a game that you would turn your object around to get through the winding path. There's also Pong, a hand grabbing game, and a few others. One thing that the game does so well is that it doesn't just limit you to just only 3 different mini games, but rather a handful of different stuff. Even if some are very similar, which can help with the player engagement. Even though some may overstay their welcome, it's not that bad since they would try to do new ways for you to get through the games. Once you're done, you can go back to the start of the level and then it's done. And that's pretty much the game. You can collect these stars, which are just there for completionists, and there's also sub-stories you can do to help expand the universe, but I haven't done any of those, so I have no word on them. Along with once you beat the main story, you can do another route, but this time it's about the perspective of one of the characters, which I also didn't do. But why I think the game works is the level of uniqueness that it entails, while also being an extremely fair game, even if it's not that easy. What I mean by fair is that when you die, you go back to the start of the minigame or the intersection where you can choose your path. Which for the audience they're trying to look for, it makes sense, as this is intended to be more of a multiplayer game. It kind of feels natural and makes sense for what they're going for here, which is a major plus. If I do have to criticize something, I would say the final boss of the game is poorly designed in my book, since it's very lackluster in terms of how it goes. And I would like it if they give you a health upgrade, but this is just me being nitpicky, and the gameplay overall is pretty fun, and I bet you and another person of your choice will have a blast here. The only reason I was interested in this game was all thanks to the visual style of the game, which are the character designs, by how they're absolutely amazing. Not only does it fit the system they represent, but it also makes sense as a double team with the blue and pink. The developers did a really good job at choosing the colors that would complement each other. The graphics themselves are trying to go for a 1950s inspired design, but I personally think it's mostly inspired by the Cartoon Network shows of the 2000s, such as Hi Puff Puff Amiyumi. But it feels very different enough to be its own thing, so that's nice. As for the other characters and such, they all look well made, and the developers had a lot of passion making them. The colors and design really work hand in hand to make this game feel right at home with the Switch. Heck, the capsule you and/or another player are driving looks like a Joy-Con. I don't know if that was a coincidence or not, but it's a nice touch and makes it feel very Nintendo, even though it's made by an indie developer, which is outright amazing. The game also features animation, which although looks cheap on paper, it brings these characters to life, and even when these characters are just there for text boxes, the moment they have makes them feel more alive and very expressive in some cases. And the music here is a mixed bag, but a ton of fantastic scores, which is a plus in my book. As for the performance, it does its job, and I remember it running smoothly, so that's also a plus. You can tell that the developers put a lot of time and effort into making the game, and it really shows here to make a one-of-a-kind experience. This is a prime example of how lesser-known games can sometimes make a bigger impact in terms of what they want to do, and did so successfully than the bigger studios. Not only does this gameplay have a good balance of two different gameplay styles that work together, but have a fun and colorful cast of characters and presentation that makes it stand out and have the ability to become its own thing. If you're looking for a new multiplayer game for your Switch, or just a new type of game, then this is for you. For me, I'll give this game an 8.7 out of 10. Do me a favor and give this game a shot, and you won't be disappointed. I was gonna make a joke about this character, but when recording this, it was a fucking disaster, so I might as well end it here. LOL.